Welcome back to HQ Spotlight. The I told you so crew has a lot of bass in their voice come this morning. When you take a look at the numbers, those are the 4 teams that got the automatic bye into the college football playoffs, the conference championship winners. All 4 of those teams went 0-4 in their playoff games this season. Even worse than that, they were outscored 134-76. I'm putting an asterisk, Mike, next to Arizona State. They were the only team that was actually competitive
held their own
in their opening round. Of course, our Tom Fornelli covers these very closely, these teams, and he had some thoughts on how this first round went. He said, quote, "Do yourself a favor. If you hear somebody talking about a first round bye in that college football playoff being a disadvantage because all 4 teams with a bye lost in the format's inaugural season, smack them upside the head. Or, if you're a pacifist, politely correct them." We all know Tom Fornelli, good for a laugh, but I got to be honest, Chip, as we bring you back here, he's speaking straight facts. I mean, I think a lot of us were disappointed in how that first round of the CFP went for these championship teams. What did you take away from that opening round? What was the biggest flaw with those 4 teams going 0-4 with the byes?
Yeah, I think that we've got a situation where they wouldn't have had those kind of matchups if we had been seeding close to the ranking. We are dealing with the semifinals that has the number 3, 4, 5, and 6 team. So the idea that a 12-team playoff would put 3, 4, 5, and 6 into the Final Four seems like it is fair. But I do think that it has produced a version of the college football playoff that is going to be its own season. Much like the NFL, much like the NBA, much like even Major League Baseball, I think that what we have with the expanded college football playoff is a second season where making it is going to be important, but it does diminish the regular season. And as somebody who has always appreciated the regular season and would really wish if we were something closer to the Premier League, where everyone gets to play a round robin and we crown the champion at the end of the season, it does bum me out a little bit, because what I think we are doing with the expanded playoff is we are going to crown the best team of the playoff. That is not necessarily going to be the best team of the regular season. Oregon was the best team of the regular season, and they are out of the playoff. That has nothing to do specifically with the format, but I think it does disconnect us from a part of college football's history, which has always celebrated the regular season and made it different from pro sports. Now college football, just like it is with the transfer portal and NIL and employment, it's a little bit closer to the pro sports than ever before.
It's all about that money. To your point, I would love to see relegation in college football. If we're taking things from the Premier League, let's see them compete to stay in college football. Let's talk about what some of these teams need going forward. We're going to start with Oregon, Chip. They were the #1 team in the country for about 75 days. And to this day, I'm not sure if they ever showed up to the Rose Bowl, because that game, it was a tough watch if you were a Ducks fan. Moving forward, obviously, the first step in the postseason is replacing Dillon Gabriel. They lost the 4-star quarterback recruit, and I'm going to do my best to get through his name here. Jaren Kiava-Sagapatule, the 4-star quarterback out of Oregon who entered the transfer portal. So what's next here for Dan Lanning?
Well, the good news is the first one's easy to pronounce. It's Dante Moore, okay? So Dante Moore has a great history. Blue chip quarterback who committed to Oregon, was a big-time flip for UCLA when Chip Kelly was the head coach there. But then after Chip Kelly leaves, Dante Moore returns to Oregon. A ton of talent, but he was just thrown into the fire way too early during his 5 starts with the Bruins. So is it going to be Dante Moore, someone who Dan Lanning has obviously had a relationship with and had his eyes on for a while? Then this next one's a little bit more interesting, because Austin Novosad is somebody who anybody who covers the team and gets access to some of the scrimmages or gets an understanding of the way he's playing in practices, they all say that Novosad is a very, very good player. And what we've seen at the quarterback position at Oregon is that you don't necessarily need to be over the top to be very productive. You know, Dillon Gabriel brought a lot of experience. Bo Nix brought a lot of experience, and we're able to turn that into a lot of yards, high completion percentage. So can Dante Moore elevate that position with some of those God-given abilities, or is Austin Novosad going to be more of the safe system play that you've got with all of his time that he spent in Eugene? Fascinating quarterback competition, but really, I think both of those are good options. It's just neither of them bring the kind of seasoning and experience that you got with 6th-year record-setting senior Dillon Gabriel.
I mean, are we sure he's out of eligibility at this point? Like, someone make sure that Dillon Gabriel is going to the NFL draft. Oh, my goodness. Let's talk ASU, Chip. Obviously, a spectacular performance by the Sun Devils against Texas in the Peach Bowl. We saw Kenny Dillingham get that extension announced before the game, and I was at that game, and you can see what the Sun Devils are doing to the rest of college football just in terms of their energy, their excitement. I would love to see the numbers as well to see what players are interested in playing for him next season. So I come to you here. What's next for the Sun Devils?
Yeah, this is about selling success on the recruiting trail, surrounding Sam Leavitt with gifted playmakers to make sure that you're going to be able to keep the momentum from a year that honestly was a year early. Did everybody around the Big 12 believe that Kenny Dillingham was going to get it rolling eventually at Arizona State? Yes. But this was a team that didn't win. They won 3 games last year. They had NCAA sanctions. They are still dealing with the cloud from everything that fell apart under Herm Edwards in the previous regime. And here they are, from worst to first, pick 16th, finish as the Big 12 champion, show up and have such a great performance against Texas. And they don't have to replace their quarterback because redshirt freshman Sam Leavitt was outstanding this season. And the best thing that you can say about any quarterback as they're going through their full freshman season is that he was so much better at the end of the year than he was at the beginning. When we see that development, when we see that trajectory, that is something that's going to be really encouraging. So they don't have to go out and spend big on trying to get a quarterback because they've got a great one in Leavitt. Now they get to sell the success to their own boosters, to their donors, and then also to the transfer portal and the high school ranks, because Arizona State has shown that with its 34-year-old head coach, they are going to be in championship contention in the Big 12 almost every single season.
I mean, you said it right off the top of this. They were picked to finish last in the Big 12 this season, and they went toe-to-toe with Texas in the Peach Bowl overtime as well. I love Sam Leavitt talking his talk as well before the game. Like, he had some confidence. I'm excited to see that program in the future. Let's talk Boise State here, because with their loss to Penn State, they, of course, snap an 11-game winning streak. They also come up just short there for Ashton Jeanty in terms of him chasing Barry Sanders' rush record. And I know the question sort of floating around right now is, well, how do you replace him? I don't think you necessarily replace Ashton Jeanty, but for Boise State, how do they replace the production that he brought to the offense?
You've got to divvy it up. I think that you understand you are not going to be able to be as one-dimensional as you were. You've got to be able to get out there, use some of the creativity that you've got with that Boise State offensive staff, which I do respect. And I think that they're going to have to figure out ways, whether it's Maddox Madsen, whether it's somebody else who they decide to bring in at the quarterback position, to evolve this offense. Because while Ashton Jeanty dominated the 2024 season, this has been going on for longer than this. Ashton Jeanty was the Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year in 2023. So for the last 2 years, there has been a big old red easy button, maybe blue and orange easy button that they've just been able to mash anytime that they need to have somebody go make a play. He has been special for a long time. And when you lose a player like that, that has just been the foundation of your offense through multiple conference championships, now all of a sudden you have to look around that room and say, we can't call on the next running back to step in and all of a sudden be able to have anything close to what Ashton Jeanty did. Not only the record-setting production, but even the idea that we're going to be counting on you for all of those key plays in the biggest games. So Maddox Madsen at quarterback, the wide receiver room. This has to be an offense that gets a little bit more balanced, because as you see right here, I'm not sure that you're going to be able to take any one of these players and ask them to take on the workload that we saw from Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah, Jeanty's so special this year. He finished his career with 100-plus rushing yards in all 14 games this season. Truly special stuff, regardless of if he won the Heisman or what comes next for him. Chip, I'm going to need a intervention episode with our Mackenzie Brooks on the Cover 3 ASAP after her Dogs lose in the Super Bowl last night. I need to check in with her, or the Sugar Bowl, excuse me, losing in the Sugar Bowl. But regardless, it was a valiant effort from the backup quarterback and Gunnar Stockton. It's a two-part question here for you, Chip. Where's the biggest area for improvement for Georgia going forward? And does the 2025 plan include Parker Jones on the roster?
First part, wide receivers. Oh, my goodness. I mean, all season long, they led the nation in drops. This is starting to become almost like Nick Saban's kickers at Alabama, where it was just like this crazy weakness, an Achilles heel that you just couldn't figure out. But Georgia has not been able to get dominant play at the wide receiver position. I guess Ladd McConkey really is the best thing that you can say from these last couple of seasons. They have got great tight end play. They've had good running backs in other seasons. Offensive line has always been great. But what we saw, the drops from Arian Smith, the drops from Dylan Bell, the way that they just weren't able to even hit on the explosive plays that were there, they've got to figure out what they're going to do, because the big thing for me is, are you going to shop the transfer portal, or are you going to rely on in-house development? Because Georgia has been recruiting at a top 3 level year after year after year after year. So are you going to believe that the players that you scouted, blue chip players, 4-star wide receivers, blue chip wide receivers, are you going to believe that they are ready to take on the next step? Because you need new faces, you need new hands at that wide receiver position. And the second part of your question, we actually have already gotten word from the young man, Parker Jones. He has, after discussion with the coaches, decided to enter the transfer portal. He will be taking his talents elsewhere. A surprise, I'm sure.
Oh, my goodness.
Tough lessons for the young man here at the early part of his career.
Oh, you hate to see it. At least he got to be there on the sidelines, but my goodness, we will keep our eye on Parker Jones as his career continues. Chip, always a good time checking in with you. I know we'll do the same thing as the semifinals roll along. You can catch Chip Patterson on the Cover 3 podcast. And college football fans, I'm talking to you. Anyone headed to the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the Cotton Bowl, whether you're traveling from out of town or if you're a local, maybe a Longhorn fan, make sure you join the Cover 3 crew for their first ever in-person live show at Tana Hills Tavern and Music Hall on Thursday, January 9th. Be a part of the big game breakdown for the college football semifinals and stick around for an Orange Bowl watch party. You can RSV for free by scanning that QR code on your screen. And trust me when I say this will be a good time with our Cover 3 crew.